Hello, you're listening to Mike Madden on the Art Show podcast. Here you will find interviews with authors, musicians, artists and anyone else in and around the arts. Some of the interviews are taken direct from the Art Show on Expat Radio, with one or two specials in between. This show features singer-songwriter Wreckless Eric. Eric discusses his musical career that spans more than 40 years, and he also tells us about his upcoming UK tour and his new album Transience. It was originally broadcast on Expat Radio on Monday the 29th of April 2019. Good evening, this is Mike Madden on the Art Show on Expat Radio, and tonight my very special guest is a guy that I've been listening to since 1977. Welcome to Wreckless Eric.
Hello, I'm here.
Good, all the way from New York, so fantastic connection. And you're here to talk about your new tour and your new album, Transience. So just tell our listeners a little bit about what's behind that.
Yeah, what's behind it? I still make records. I mean, I'm as you know, I'm famous for one song, it seems. I can't remember the title of. No, it's Whole Wide World. And, you know, everyone knows that song and it seems to grow from strength to strength. But what some people don't know is that I've carried on making records one way or another all the way through since 1977. And, yeah, Transience is my latest one, which I recorded in January of this year and have rushed to put out, and probably ill-advisedly, but I think everyone seems to like the record, so that's, well, I don't know about everyone. I mean, like, if everyone liked it, I'd be Beyonce or someone, wouldn't I? You know,
ratcheting up those YouTube hits.
Yeah, you know, racking up the hits and everything, but yeah, and it's a strange thing. It's like I had a collection of songs. Last year I had a record out called Construction Time and Demolition, and I toured. Behind that, I did some massive amount of tour dates, like 75 dates or something. And in that time, I would end up sort of holed up in kind of dubious hotels. And I always wondered why I would have a room by the swimming pool, you know, which would be some stagnant kind of blue expanse with oil floating on the top and quite often dead insects, but which was the kind of hotels that I'd be in. But I was always by the pool. And then I found out my contract stipulated my room must be poolside. So there I was, sitting by stagnant swimming pools, writing this record. And I felt like I was writing. Do you know the writing of Raymond Carver?
I'm not familiar with it, but I'm sure some of our listeners will be.
Do you know of a film director called Robert Altman?
Yes, Robert Altman, yeah. Yes.
And have you seen a film called Shortcuts?
Yes, I have.
Yes, well, that's the writing. Those are stories written originally. They're from stories written by Raymond Carver. And I felt like I was in those kind of little short stories, really, a lot of the time. And I'd be seeing stuff going on. So I kind of just wrote songs, you know, in my off time by the dubious pools in kind of hotels outside San Diego and the suburbs of Melbourne or in Australia or wherever I happened to be, you know. I mean, I wasn't always by the side of a swimming pool. I was sometimes in some kind of hideous high-rise hotel in Sioux City, Iowa, or wherever that is, South Dakota, those kind of places. I mean, I went to an awful lot of places.
So I guess you know the title Transience is built around the transient nature of your your lifestyle when you get on the road. And
The transient nature of life. I mean, while I was touring, my daughter's mother died suddenly. She was my ex of many years ago, and I mean, I didn't think of her so much as an ex, as a friend, and my daughter's mother. But she died suddenly, which was, I mean, that was brutal. But I was in the middle of touring, so in between administering to the family, if you like. In some way, well, that sounds weird, but I had to carry on with my touring, and then when I came home from the touring, my mother, who was 93, started to go downhill, and the next thing she died in her sleep in the middle of the night while I was on an aeroplane coming to see her. So it was kind of a bit of a rough year, and I did really think, I think I made an album by the end of the year. I was sort of making an album out of songs I'd written, really, because I needed to, keep my sanity and keep busy, really.
And a lot of the songs that you write, in fact, virtually all of the songs that you write, are based in some way around personal experiences. Is that a continuing theme through Transience as well?
Well, some things are personal experience, and some things are kind of. It's not that simple. I mean, I suffer as a songwriter, I suffer from the thing that all songwriters suffer from. That if you say, oh, yeah, this really odd thing happened, and like the delivery man came to deliver a package next door and, blocked me in, and like I suddenly realised I knew the delivery van guy because he was the brother of a girl that I used to go out with, and someone will say, "Oh, you should write a song about it," and you think, why? you know,
Yeah.
People misunderstand writers and artists. They want everything that you write to be something that literally, down to the last detail, happened to you. And they want everything that you wrote to be something that happened to you as one event. They can't actually see that you might have amalgamated several different events, and maybe one of them didn't happen to you, but happened to someone else, or could have happened and didn't happen at all. It's kind of what makes you an artist, is that you can make things up.
Yeah, I kind of liken some of your songs to observational comedy. Some of the comedians who tell stories.
Well, I don't know if life is funny, life is terribly sad, and life is also very funny as well. I mean, I think it's funny. I laugh quite a lot, really. I don't sound like I do today, I don't think. I think I sound quite dour today. But but and I have, I think I have a highly developed sense of the ridiculous, really. But I think of, I mean, if I think of a song like off the new album, like "Father to the Man," that's just the truth. It's a song about my dad. He worked in a factory, and I tried to work in a factory, but it didn't suit me. I worked in a lot of factories, but sometimes only for about 3 days, and then like something would go wrong, and they'd give me something to do, which till lunchtime. That was
Right.
I used to give him something to do till lunchtime, like sweep the floor, and that was because they had to prepare what they called your cards. They gave you your cards.
Yes, a very common thing back then.
Yeah, and they pay you off and everything, and by 3 o'clock that afternoon, you'd be in the employment exchange trying to get another job. That was me and factories had that kind of a relationship. But my dad was like, I don't know. It's funny that I would write a song about my dad when my mother died, but it's strange how you start to think about things, and you start to think about life and the transient nature of it, because it's a very temporary and very tenuous thing. I mean, nobody knows how long they've got. It's almost like seems stupid to take it so damn seriously when you might actually just walk out under a bus or succumb to a fatal heart attack or die of a rare disease, that you never knew you got. So that sounds terribly morbid, but at the same time, that once you understand that, it takes an awful lot of pressure off you. Because all we do in life is go through it most of the time, worrying about what's going to happen, preempting stuff that hasn't happened yet, preparing for the worst. It's a dreadful way to carry on. And then when you finish doing all that, it all happened anyway, and there was nothing you could do about it.
I make you very right indeed there, particularly in the present day where there's all kinds of things going on over there and over here in the political world. And
Well, I think there always have been. It's just that we're much more acutely aware of it. I mean, there was a time, 20 or 30 years ago, you would buy a newspaper and you would look in the newspaper, and then at 5:45 p.m. you would tune into the news on the TV, perhaps. But it's like I could just get a computer, an iPad, or a laptop, and wherever, or a phone, and wherever I happen to be, if you don't stop it from happening, news headlines will spring up on your phone. The phone suddenly goes ka-ding, and you get the latest idiotic statement from Donald Trump comes up on your phone. The New York Times tells you that this happened or whatever, or the Daily Telegraph says this. So we're bombarded with news, so we're much more obsessed with it than we were, but it was always... I don't know if it's better that we know now that all this awful stuff is going on, but it never wasn't awful, I don't think.
no, I guess we didn't hear so much about it because, as you say, you'd listen to the news at 5:45 on maybe one of two or three channels, whereas now you've got a whole section of channels dedicated to the news.
Yes. And you see it wherever you go, if you go to the gym, like they'll have it on screens, I mean, like I go to the gym, I turn all the screens off. I don't want to see that, I'm trying to sort of like get fit and be healthy and stuff. And like, go on running machines and stuff and run, and it's like you start to feel good. But if you were watching that stuff, it would, I mean, like, I don't want to be like head in the sand about it, but I try very hard not to be obsessed, because there's nothing that my obsession can do to make things better. My concern might make things better in some small way if I act upon my concerns, but my obsession will do nothing.
I think in terms of the political landscape, you kind of it's almost like a car crash, like watching a car crash over here at the moment.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, over here as well. It is like some kind of catastrophe unfolding in slow motion.
So going back to the album, obviously you've described sort of where the songs came from, where they were written, but there's a long way from there to getting it actually out there, available for your people to buy.
Oh, it's a crazy business, like, because you might have great ideas about how you want it to sound and how you want it to be and all that. I mean, I needed a drummer to come and do it, and like I thought, like I did some touring because before I was touring with my last album, I was touring with Amy Rigby, my wife. And I'd recorded an album with her, like produced it and engineered it and everything. And I played bass on it and guitar and stuff and a lot of things on it. And we went out on tour and I played the bass. And she went through 4 drummers in 6 weeks. I mean, not because she's hard to work with. She isn't. She's just the availability of drummers. But the last one of them was Steve Goulding, who was the drummer in, the Graham Parker's band, The Rumour.
Yeah.
And also he plays with the Mekons. He's done a lot, over the years. And he actually played drums on Whole Wide World back in 1976 when we recorded that. I see him around because he lives in New York City, and we see him at shows, and one way or another you bump into each other. And then Amy said she was getting him, and I mean, he's, as a drummer, he's godlike, I mean, he's the best. He's ever such a nice guy, but I'm terrified of him because he's so damn good. When I made my first record, I didn't know what the hell was going on, and they were all, him and Nick Lowe were sort of old hands at this kind of thing, and I felt like the dumbest kid in the class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, obviously, I'm terrified of Steve Goulding, and Amy said, "Steve's coming to rehearse tomorrow," and I said, "What? He's coming here?" Terrified, But anyway, we did tour with him, and I managed to hold my own with that, and I needed a drummer, and I thought I'd be great. He'd be so good, so I called him, and he said, "Yeah, he could come and do it, and he could come and do it in a couple of days' time." So he came up for a day to record at my studio, and I thought, well, we'll maybe get 2 or 3 tracks done. And we did the whole damn lot.
Right.
I mean, no, we did. There were 8 tracks on the record, but we did 7, and we did them in 7 hours. And in that time, we had a break for lunch and everything.
I guess that's a testament to the professionalism.
Yeah, I mean, he was astonishing. I couldn't believe how good his playing was, how good his sound was, and how quick he was. Most drummers are sort of looking at me like deer in the headlights. He was like, "Okay, so like this, and do you want to do it like that? Do you want to put an instrumental in? Do you want to put 4 more bars in there? Maybe anything like that." He would have suggestions. He approached it with utter confidence. I mean, most of his suggestions, I go, "No, it's not like that. It's like this." Because I'm, I know what I want. Some people say that, so I'm closed-minded, but I don't listen to them and all kinds of things like that. But I just know how I want things to be. And it's not true. I do listen to people.
So we've been listening to a fascinating insight into some of the things that go on when these records are recorded. So let's dip into Transience now with the song that you talked about a short while ago, "Father to the Man," that contains your signature guitar and some open-hearted lyrics and vocals.
My dad worked in a factory. I tried it too, but I couldn't do with the tedium of the everyday. I flunked out, I'm not ashamed to say. While he was steady, I was afraid. I lived my life from straight to straight. Now I'm older
Expat Digital Radio, online 24/7.
And that was Father to the Man by Wreckless Eric, and you're listening to Mike Madden on The Art Show on Expat Radio. Don't forget to check out our new website, expatradio.uk. So, back to Eric, and we talked about the production of the album, and obviously there's a lot goes into that musically, but
yeah, it's a funny business. Some records you just get mired in kind of wondering what to do and how to do and everything, but it's best if you can work really quickly, and I had to work quickly on this because for my records, I like to take them somewhere else to mix them, and I work with a man called Andrea Tokic, who is in Nashville, but he's not like country music Nashville, he's very alternative Nashville. He did the Alabama Shakes first album, if you know that. That was him. He recorded and produced that. But anyway, like we just have a great time working together, and he's very kind of like, he understands what I do, and like I instead of like usually, I mix records, and like I have someone like Amy. Like my favourite person to produce is my wife, Amy Rigby, because we have an understanding of things, and I always say, like, she has her strengths and I have mine, and together we make up one good one. If you see what I mean. Does that make sense? But I will be there, kind of, trying to make the guitar sit right and get the bass in the right, and then she'll tap me on the shoulder and say, I'm not hearing this or not hearing that, or can you turn that up or down? And I have the same kind of thing with Andrea for my records. I like being the guy that sits at the back and goes, can you turn that up, or that doesn't, get rid of that at that point, that doesn't work, and do this and that, from a position on a sofa. So the thing is that I had to book studio time with Andrea, so like I was kind of like, okay, I've got some tracks and I'm just putting them together and stuff, and he's going, great, have you got anything that I can hear? I'm going, no, not yet. And then you kind of have to do it very quickly, and it really does work best. The thing that I've seen over the years is that the worst records are the ones where people are pontificating and saying, well, we could do it like this, or we could do it like that, and they record 60 versions of the song, and then they have a version with an electric guitar, and a version with an acoustic guitar, and a version with a distorted guitar, and a guitar that isn't quite so distorted, and then they do it in a different key because maybe it would suit my voice if we just raised it another step. And there's all this stuff, or maybe we should do it this way or that. Now, I've quite often in the past I've recorded several versions of songs. I mean, like, I will record maybe 3 takes of a song and then move on to the next one when I'm doing backing tracks. And if it isn't right, I'll come back on another day, possibly with other people, like, a different drummer or whatever, and try it again until I get the definitive. But on this new album, I didn't have that kind of luxury. I had to just go with what I had, because I had the studio time booked to mix a record that I hadn't actually recorded yet. So I just had to work really quickly, and I think Steve was the key to it, because he's just such a great drummer. I mean, he has over 40 years, maybe 45 years experience of making records. I mean, I can remember him recording Whole Wide World. I can remember that session, and that was my first record. And like, he's actually 2 months younger than me, but there he was, and he had it in. They ran through it. They ran through it once, and then they recorded it, and that was it.
Wow.
And he hasn't got any worse than that. still like that. You run through it, you record it, you've got it.
You just can't. You can't buy that kind of experience, can you? It's.
Well, you can, but it costs a bit. I hope he's not listening to this because his feet might go up. Yeah. And then, like, what I've noticed happens with my sessions is I get people in to do stuff, and, particularly with overdubs, and they actually think they're going to do this, that, and the other, and they have ideas and all that. And the first thing I do is get them into a thoroughly confused state and then just record it, and that works better, I think. I mean, I do it a nice way. I don't get them to, it's not like water torture or something. It's not some sort of high-tech torture process. It's just like they're looking at me. They don't know what the hell's going on. There's a jazz trumpet player that I work with, and first time I worked with him, he sat in front of me. He set his music stand up. He had all his horns out on stands ready, and he sharpened a pencil and got this manuscript paper out and looked at me like a secretary about to take dictation and said, "Right, what's?" And I looked at him. I said, "We need it to be affordable sounding." Kind of glossy but cheap, you know what I mean? Cheap and cheerful, but not trashy exactly, but not quite top drawer. Approachable, like a budget sofa, like a DFS sofa. It has to have that. He was just. He was looking at me. He was just completely. He going, "What?" And I said, "Oh, I don't have any formal training." and he just laughed. I mean, he was great. I mean, he is great. He plays on a lot of stuff for us because we do a lot of recording. But he completely understood it, and we constructed it, did it. There was one track I remember doing a track with him where we spent a couple of hours working some arrangement, recorded it all, and then I said, "I don't think this is it." And he said, "Just erase it all, get rid of it, let's start again." He had I like people like that. You can't be precious about it.
Yeah. If it's not working, I guess it's not working.
Yeah, and then but you kind of like building some ramshackle shed sometimes, like, we'll put this in, that does it hold up? Okay, let go, and everyone lets go, and it's standing there, and you think, okay, that'll do.
So you've obviously put yourself under a little bit of time pressure to get the album out in time for the tour that starts in May, and
yeah.
Once you've done the recording and you've had it mixed and it's ready to go, there's still a lot of work to do because you've got the artwork.
Oh no, don't! Like at 2:00 in the morning, we finally put in the artwork for the pressing. Because we run our own record company here as well.
Yeah.
Record companies are a strange thing. You get a shot. I mean, basically, I always come back to this thing of like, okay, well, what are they doing for me that I can't do? Because quite often, like, I've noticed that record company people are asking me if I have someone's phone number or do you have a contact for this person? I'm thinking, well, yeah, I do, but you don't. So I'm thinking, why don't I just hire a publicist and get a distribution deal and use my own money to make a record? I mean, the last one, I got a credit card, used it to manufacture a record and pay for all the upfront costs, and then paid it back as soon as I made some money out of the record. I just paid it like until I'd broken even, and then thought, oh, look, I'm making money now, It's very simple, and that's the kind of thing I do, really. It seems to be the best way to do it.
So how do you manage the distribution of your work?
It's easier in Britain. I do it through a company called Shell Shock, who who I've had dealings with since there's part of it was they're based in Norwich, and they used to be Bax Distribution, and I was in a group in the mid-80s called the Lembright Combo, and we had records distributed by them back then. So I have some kind of history there, you know, and no one has any huge expectations, you know, that I'm going to suddenly go any more than, like, I mean, I'm not going to have a gold record or a silver record or possibly an asbestos record.
A little bit toxic.
Yeah, I wish you could get those asbestos mats for putting down hot pans. You know, you could put them on an asbestos mat. If I could find one of them, I would put a record label in the middle of it and frame it and have my own asbestos record in respect of 21 sales.
Well, we're gonna dip into the album again now with a track called Dead End. So where did the inspiration for Dead End come from?
There's a sign at the top of our street, dead end, dead end, dead end, and it's like, I've been living in this house in upstate New York for 7.5 years, and I realised one day that that's what I see. I turn the corner and the first thing I see is the dead end sign. And it's like then when you realise that, you see them everywhere, dead end. Every other street round here has got a sign that says dead end. In England they would say no through road. Or if you were living somewhere really posh like Sale in Cheshire or somewhere, it might say cul-de-sac.
Oh, we do have cul-de-sac signs, yeah. I used to live on one.
Oh, get you.
It was a council cul-de-sac.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, common cul-de-sac. Yeah. No, in America, it's one level, it's dead end. And I thought, what kind of message is that giving me every time I come home? I see a sign that says dead end. I turn into the street where I live. You know, I've come back, I've been on tour, I'm full of hope and stuff, and dead end. Oh, right, that's, yeah, I got it.
I better go out again.
Yes, reverse out of there as quickly as you can. I even have kind of weird dreams, you know, where I can't get out. But I love it. There's in that song there, in this Dead End song, there's a line, put the car in reverse, which is the only way you can get out. You have to reverse out. It started first time, and I thought, yeah, it's only recently, it's only in the past few years that I've had cars where you could actually guarantee it would start. And start, you know, it's a really great day because the car started first time. So I put the car in reverse, it started first time.
Well, it sounds fascinating. So let's dip into Dead End by Wreckless Eric from the album Transience.
There's a sign at the top of our street, dead end, dead end, dead end. What we see when we come home, dead end, dead end, dead end. It's like
You're listening to Expat Radio, beaming out across France and around the world.
Hello, this is Mike Madden on the Art Show on Expat Radio, and you've been listening to Dead End by Wreckless Eric from his album Transience. And Eric is about to hit the UK on tour. Now, it's quite a grueling tour, if you don't mind me saying. At the beginning of May, you've got...
No, it's not. It's easy. I mean, like, believe me, if you did the kind of touring that I've done in my life, this isn't grueling. It's a walk in the park, this. There's only 14 dates. You know, and like some of them are as close as Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester. I mean, that's really easy. The last touring I did was much more kind of like Sioux City, Chicago, Cleveland. It's like you're looking at 10 hours, you know, like, or drive from San Francisco to Portland, Oregon, 10 hours hard driving, you know, or Atlanta to Tampa, or Atlanta to Miami I did once. That took me 17 hours. And then I played the show. So this tour is really very easy, you know. You go to Brighton, you go to London, then you have some days off.
I spotted 9 dates in 11 days, but you're right, you've got Leeds, Liverpool and Manchester in consecutive days.
I believe, yeah, Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester, it's easy. And then there's a day or two off, and then I think it goes Nottingham, Newcastle. Then I think it's Bristol, which throws a bit of a spanner in the works. But, you know, it's all right. And the motorways in England, they're terrible, actually. But, I mean, in terms of, like, they're very slow sometimes.
Yes, they are. I've having travelled to Leeds several times from where I am in the north, the M1's a nightmare.
Yeah, of course, you know. But, I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, it's not like... I remember doing a tour with Amy a few years ago where we drove from Houston to Memphis, and then played a late show in Memphis, and then we had to drive to Chicago to play an early show the next night. And the night after that, we drove to Minneapolis. And basically in 4 nights, we did the length of America.
That's a heck of a lot of driving.
And the worst thing about it is that, like, we set off after the show in Chicago and drove through the night, because Wisconsin, we had to drive through Wisconsin, and it's always like there's always these guys in big pickup trucks that drive along side by side with the windows open so they can have a conversation or a shouter-sation or whatever they call it. Is there such a thing? You know, I mean, I don't know how they get to hear each other. Yeah! And they're driving along about 45 miles an hour, and you're trying to get past. So we didn't want any of that, so we drive through the night. So I'm bucketing along, and I think, this is marvellous. We're getting places here. And like suddenly there's the blue lights behind, and like the guys going, is there any reason you're doing 106 miles an hour in a 55 mile an hour limit? And I'm going, yellow cheap thrills. Anyway, the guy was very nice about it, but he did give me a speeding ticket, which actually came to half the fee that we were getting for the show in Minneapolis. So, like, we did the show, and it was actually, I don't know why we did that one. But then it wasn't well attended. And then next day we get in the car and we're driving back, and I'm thinking, well, we need to get out of that damn place. And I'm bucketing along, and I'm thinking there seem to be no pickup truck drivers, so I've got the pedal down and everything. And there's another flashing blue light behind me. And is there any reason you're doing 87 miles an hour in a 55 mile? I was hoping you wouldn't notice. And we got another speeding fine, which came to the other half of the fee.
So you wouldn't recommend Minneapolis then?
No, I would actually. I played there recently, and it was great, but it was just a strange thing, or it just makes you, if you think about it too carefully and get too focused up on it, you could start to think it's possibly pointless what you've been doing.
Well, I think if we take a step back in time now, because you went to art school in Hull when you first got interested in music, listening to people like Ian Jory and Kilburn and the High Roads.
I was interested in music years before I went to art college. I went to art college in Bristol first, and then I went to Hull. And I mean, like, you know, I went to art college when I was 18. Now, I was already completely obsessed with music, which is probably why I went to art college, because I think that was how you got into a band in those days. Yeah.
It does seem common, yeah.
And I was a painter, you know. I did painting, and I wanted to carry on doing it. Yeah, so music wasn't like I went to art college and went, oh, look, there's this stuff, it's called music, apparently it's called beat music, and it's very popular with young people, and you know, I mean, like, I grew up listening to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Who, the Yardbirds, the Kinks, all the rest of it, you know. I mean, I've been through my Led Zeppelin phase and out the other side of it by the time I went to art school. But carry on.
No, and eventually you signed with Stiff Records, and it was I remember it very well. 1977 was a very hot summer. Punk was
Tarmac cracked and stuff like that, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Everything melted. And obviously, it was as a young man back then, signing with Stiff Records, and Ian Jory and Elvis Costello were around. How would you have done it differently with the wealth of experience you've got now?
Well, yeah, you would do it differently, but you can't. That's what I think about this. Like, you know, the past, people go back over it. My mother used to do this. She used to rake over the past, and I said to her one day, I said, the trouble is, the only person that you're actually hurting here is yourself, because all these people that you have issues with, they're all dead and gone. And the past is dead and gone. The only use for the past, really, history, if you like, is to teach us the lessons that we need to learn. So it's never a question of how I would have done it differently. It's like, the thing to look at is, when this situation arises again, how will I handle it? And you will get the same things thrown at you again and again and again in life until you actually learn the lesson that life is trying to teach you. You know, you get these people, like, they go into a relationship with someone and it's a nightmare, it's a catastrophe. And then they come out of that and they're all going to start, I'm never going to do that again. And they start off and they do exactly the same thing again, because they haven't figured out why this keeps happening. And I've been like that, you know, I in all kinds of different ways, I realised that I got into the same old scrapes and the same problems time and time again. And eventually I thought, well, I need to look at why this happens. And one of the things that I've done all my life is worry about, you know, particularly about money. I mean, finances were always very, very rocky. And I suddenly got this thing. I thought, well, things fix themselves. And they, you know, like, there will be some kind of outcome. But if I look at past experiences, there was an outcome and there was a solution that I could never have predicted. And it came about in spite of my best intentions, which, you know, to fix the problem, which actually did nothing more than hinder and delay the solution. And I think, well, the thing that I need to learn is not to worry so much and to get on with something that I can do. rather than worry about something that I can't fix. But I've got completely off the point. But I don't actually believe in going back and saying, well, I'd do it differently. You know, I'd have a different bass player. I'd get so and so on the drums. I wouldn't listen to that person. I'd get a different manager. I'd write some different songs and I'd record them in a completely different manner. And I would change my name. I wouldn't have been called. Oh, that's one thing. I certainly wouldn't have been. If I'd have known, I would not have allowed anyone to call me Wreckless Eric, because it's kind of, it's been a blessing and a drag. I would prefer to be called Brian Crayfish sometimes. No, I wouldn't actually. But but there's a million things that you could say. Yeah, I'd do it all differently. But really, what's the point? What really is the point of that?
And I guess as well, Wreckless Eric, the album was in the UK top 50. Whole Wide World, which we've already mentioned a couple of times, was on all sorts of playlists. It's been covered by the Lightning Seeds, the Proclaimers, and the Monkees. So, you were obviously doing something right.
Cage the Elephant, huge hit in the US.
Yes.
Just recently. Marilyn Manson covered it once as well. Billy Whatsit from Green Day, he's covered it. I mean, it's universal. I mean, I'm terribly proud of it. I can remember writing it, but it's kind of, I almost feel like I have a tenuous claim on it in a way, because I don't think I'm the same person as I was then. But somehow what I was then has handed down and become, in some way, I suppose I must be. I don't know how that works.
Well, it's certainly an iconic song, and there are some absolutely fantastic lyrics in there as well. So some very poetic lyrics.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very proud of it, and I do play it. I was playing in Australia recently, and I had one of these weird nights in Canberra. It was like playing at lunchtime in the shearing shed. And this bloke comes up and he says, well, are you going to play the song we all come to hear? And I'm going, what? Do you think I'm stupid or what? I've got this hit record, and when I was a kid, I dreamed about that kind of thing. What would it be like to have a hit record and to be like the Hollies or the Small Faces, or, to be like Cat Stevens or Crispin St. Peters or somebody or anybody, like these people, or one of the Beatles or something, and to have a hit record. And wouldn't that be a great thing? And then you've got one. And I'm going, well, of course I'm going to play it, But I'm not gonna blow everything on it. I'm going to play it at the right moment. I mean, actually, I always try and play it in the middle of the set if I can. I don't like to make. Some people leave the hits for the encore, and some people play the hit as the last number because they know that will get them an encore.
Right. Yes, I get you. Yeah.
You've got to have two hits to pull that trick. But I don't like encores anyway. I mean, I think it's like, it's weird if you went to the cinema and you watch the film, and at the end of it, like, everyone liked the film such a lot they showed a bit of the third reel again.
Or a whole new bit.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Exactly. Special features.
Yeah, director's cut.
Sometimes I could get, DVDs, like I could get DVDs out and just watch the special features, and there's some idiot goes, oh, we were having so much fun, like we thought, wait a minute, they're going to make this illegal, and things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's special features. But anyway, yes, they should show them in cinemas as an encore. But the thing is that playing the big hit song that everyone, it has its place. And I think you should do it with pride. I mean, I've got no time for people who moan about having to play the hits, or at least a hit or two, because at least they had them, you know. And I'm sure what drove them to the point where they had those hits is like wanting so badly to do that. So it seems very churlish that you would then turn around and say, "Oh, I'm not playing that old rubbish. I'm about this. I'm about all this. I'm not about that." You know.
Yeah, it's like you've got to reinvent yourself if you're going to do that kind of thing.
Well, you have to reinvent yourself all the time, really. I mean, you don't. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know. Sometimes people think they can just push a switch, throw a switch, push a button, and it will all do it for them. But you have to be there, and you have to make the choices, you know, and decide what it is you want to do. But I don't know. I think there would always be a place for Whole Wide World in one of my sets.
I would certainly hope so. Talking of decisions and changes, you moved to France on more than one occasion.
I did. I moved there, and then I moved there again. And my wife she said one day, she said, "Has it always been so glum here?" And I said, "Yeah, I suppose so, yeah." She said, "Why did you want to move back here?" And I thought about it. I said, "I think I must have forgotten." It's a different life. I mean, if you want sort of like, you know, if you have a retirement fund or something and you want to sort of do gardening and have a very quiet life and read books and enjoy the sunshine, not the good food, because France does not have good food. That's a fallacy. It did have, but now those days are long gone. But, you know, you can enjoy something of a life in France, but it wasn't the life that I wanted or that we wanted. So we moved away. I mean, like, I lived there for 9 years, and then we moved there together, and lived there for another 5 years, and then moved to America.
So, after coming back from France, you wrote your autobiography, A Dysfunctional Success, the Wreckless Eric Manual.
Yes. I'm trying to get another reprint of that going to sell on the tour. I have no interest in selling it in bookshops. It would have to take its place with all the other books written by, you know, ex-famous semi-names and all the rest of them, you know.
Yeah.
Some of which I don't think are well written. I never actually wanted to write about, you know, write a sort of my days in the limelight kind of book about, you know, music or something. I actually just wanted to write about what, you know, being middle class and about growing up in middle class England and what happens to you after you've been famous. That I found much more interesting. Yeah, have you ever heard of Everything But the Girl?
Yes, I have, yes.
Do you know Tracy Thorn? Like, she's written 3 books. I'm reading her 3rd book at the moment, and I think she's fantastic for writing about all of that, about middle class England in the 60s or the 70s, you know. And it's, to me, you know, she's kind of like a sociologist, but she's just a great writer. Do you know that book? The new one, it's called Another Planet, and it's about suburbia. But anyway, I mean, like, that's what my Dysfunctional Success book was, really.
And obviously this was done some time ago, so have you got any thoughts on bringing that up to date?
Yes, I have. We're trying to actually get a reprint going in time for the tour. Yeah, so hopefully I would like it to come out again, but I only want to sell it out of a cardboard box at shows. You know, I don't really want to go and try and put it in bookshops because it seems to me that I sold more copies myself, so I just like to do it like that.
There's a lot to be said for that. As you mentioned earlier, 2018 you saw the release of Construction, Time and Demolition.
Yeah.
This year you've got Transience. There's been a few gaps between some of your albums.
Yeah.
Can we expect to see some more over the next few years? one a year maybe?
Well, I would love to do that. I mean, that would be ideal. I think the gaps in my recording career were due to a lack of confidence. I mean, like my records were all. I didn't like recording studios. I didn't like other people's recording studios, and I didn't like what happened with recording in the 80s. So I started to do it myself. And then I thought, well, maybe I should go and do it like other people do and go in the studio. And I tried that, and I thought, that I don't like what they're doing, and they don't seem to know what they're doing, not like I do, because I've been doing this for so long. I mean, some people do, and like some people don't, I suppose. But I did have terrible crises of confidence with putting records out. You know, it always seemed like I'm not sure about this.
Well, I know the America from 2015 was very well received, as was last year's release.
Yeah, I know that last year's record particularly gave me the confidence to make a record and put it out this year. And the stuff that I did with Amy's album last year, The Old Guys, and it made me feel that you know, I had kind of come of age as as being someone who recorded and produced myself. And yeah.
It's been fascinating talking to you, and really wish you the best of luck with the UK tour and the album Transience. Now, just before you go, just tell people about where they can find out a little bit more about you, because you've got a fantastic website.
Oh, I don't know about fantastic, but I have a website. I think anyone like me does. It's called wrecklesseric.com. And I think there's some information. There's definitely a list of tour dates on there. There's probably a link to the blog that I never seem to update. And all them kind of things, you know, just like everyone else, really. Best thing is to come and see me play.
I will do my very best, because I'll be in Leeds on the 2nd of May. So, or maybe catch up then.
First date of the tour, it'll be a catastrophe.
The best kind. It's been fantastic talking to you, Eric. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And we're now going to play out with another track from Transience. This is Wreckless Eric and Indelible Stain. You've been listening to the Arts Show podcast with Mike Madden. Come back soon for more artists, authors, musicians and anyone else connected with the arts. We're going to play out with Mike Sanchez and I Don't Stand a Chance.
Baby, you hiding something that you don't want me to know, because I'm getting a vibe from way down the side, like you're just about ready to go. If you can't tell me where you stayed last night, you just can't cope with treating me right. I'm on the road to heartbreak, now's the time to tell me so, because I'm getting a chill like I'm gonna be ill. I know you don't want me no more. I won't be satisfied with your little white lies. Girl, I've only just begun to realize I don't stand a chance. I don't stand a chance. You don't wanna know and I can't make you dance. Well, I said goodbye. Find yourself another guy. I wish you were mine, but I'm losing my mind. I don't stand a chance. Tell me so, because I'm getting a chill like I'm gonna be ill. I know you don't want me no more. I won't be satisfied with your little white lies. Girl, I've only just begun to realize I don't stand a chance. No, I don't stand a chance. You don't wanna know and I can't make you dance. Well, I'll say goodbye. Find yourself another guy. I wish you were mine, but I'm losing my mind. I don't stand a chance.